So today's class is going to focus on really deep nourishment of the hips. And so often when we work with the hips in yoga, it's like deep hip stretch or deep hip strengthening. And today is not going to be like that. It's really going to be like, let's soothe these areas that we often over engage or overstretch, so that there is more equal balance. And so I will help you do this. I will remind you to do this, but make like a little Boy Scout honor pledge to yourself, like, I do solemnly swear that I'm not going to push too far into my hips, or I'm not going to over engage my glutes or tuck my tailbone, or all those things that I do from my head because I think they're good. And instead, I'm going to be so soothing and nourishing and sweet to myself. And I've been doing this sequence a lot over the past few days, and my hips feel so amazing. So I promise you, if you don't overdo it, you will reap tremendous rewards. Dana, do you have a friend with you? It's a little dark, but hi, Dana's friend. Thanks for joining. Okay, so with that, let us begin. Take a quarter turn to your left, and Satyam, will you mirror me or flip it? And we are going to do something radical. We're going to be slightly off of our mats to begin with. So you should be closer to your screen than your yoga mat. And good luck, Dana and friend, because I know your arrangements, you're smart. I know you'll figure it out. You guys will be great. And take your time slowly melting towards the mat. And if it or towards the floor. If it drives you insane to be off of your mat right now, you can scooch onto your mat, but you just have to be okay with like scooching a lot. So from this reclined space, close the eyes and start to feel your body. Start to notice its weight pressing into the earth gently and evenly. Do a little scan of the areas of the body contacting the earth. You might notice your heels, your calves, your glutes, low back, thoracic vertebra, back of the skull, hands, elbows. And then imagine even more of you starting to contact the earth as if you were like butter melting ever so slightly, or an ice cube, depending on what temperature you want to be right now. And just notice that quality of softening, of taking up more space, being less rigid, less fixed. You can visualize it happening physically throughout the whole body. And then bring that same quality to the forehead. Just imagine more spaciousness in the mind, an ungripping of the thoughts, the planning, the manipulation. And from this more spacious place, observe your gentle breath. And notice how the breath can participate in this sense of softening, in this sense of releasing, especially the exhale. The exhale really has the quality of letting go, literally, you're letting go of the breath, but also letting go of tension physically, mentally, emotionally. That melting quality I talked about a moment ago really relates to the sensation of the exhale. So just observe the next few breaths in this way. And then trying to maintain this sense of spaciousness, minimal doership, melting. We'll start to invite really gentle movements into the fingers and the toes. Just gentle wiggling in those joints. And even though they're a very tiny part of your body, see if you can be aware of the body as a whole as your fingers and toes start to move. And then start gently circling the wrists and the ankles. And slow down your movement by 50%. That was instant, Angeli. I saw it as soon as I said. Good job. And go the opposite direction even slower. And just notice how the quality of movement instantly changes when you slow down. And then let the hands and feet soften, melting them to the earth, and you don't need to move them for just a moment. Notice any little tingles in those areas as you start to wake up sensation. And gently start to snow angel the arms overhead, and keep the arms really heavy so you feel them tracing the floor around you. I'm sorry I didn't remind you to vacuum today. Hopefully the floor feels very nice on your skin. And just take a few snow angels and bring your awareness to your shoulders. And release any sense of the circle having to be a certain size, and instead let the shoulders express themselves in a comfortable, natural range of motion. The next time the arms are overhead, bend the knees, sliding the feet along the floor, bend the elbows, and effortlessly crunch the knees and the elbows together, just starting to wake up the connection of limbs to center, and then feet down and arms down, and do that just a couple more times really slowly, still tuning into this sense of gentleness and melting. And the next time you come down, let the arms reach overhead, let the legs slowly extend, and reach for your strap or strap-like object. Place the ball of the foot into the strap and let there be a little springiness in your knee. Not yet. And so bend and extend the leg a couple of times, gently kicking it into the strap and then letting the strap almost win so the joints collapse slightly. And the next time the leg gently extends, take a moment to create some resistance with the strap and just ever so gently press foot to strap and then pull the strap. And so they tie. And the hands don't move, the leg doesn't move, and you just start to notice a little bit of warmth in the leg. And tune in with the breath. Make sure you're breathing naturally, smoothly. There's no holding here. And then slide the strap down to the heel. And same thing, but so first just springing the leg a couple of times, and notice with the contact point at the heel, if you feel different muscles in the leg engaging. Perhaps a little bit more along the back line of the leg, so the calf up to the hamstring, all the way attaching into the sit bones, And then the next time the leg extends, just like we did before, push and pull with equal force. So there's just a sense of the leg naturally energizing without any strain. And then let's keep the strap where it is. So we start to explore some range of motion in the hips with that same gentle engagement. So the leg is still pressing into the strap. There's a little bit of warmth, there's a little bit of activation, and you can start with some circles. And if it's hard to be aware of the hip socket, start with just circling the foot and let that translate up to the femur, the thigh bone, rotating in the hip socket. And go the opposite direction. Of course, feel free to bend your knee if that is more comfortable. And then imagine your foot is like a leaf falling from a tree in slow motion. Let it just gently sway from side to side, catching a nice breeze. Letting it gently lower, let the strap fall through the hands little by little. My hands are working the hardest in this whole movement. So I'm sorry if your hands are tired. The foot is almost to the ground, hopefully. You'll be able to release the hands in a moment. And notice how the hip flexors aren't working too hard as the foot kicks into the strap and releases all the way down to the earth. And once the foot makes it to the earth, just make some gentle circles with the hand. Reach the fingertips away from one another so the hands are really spreading out. And then bring the knee in to meet the chest, curl up towards the leg. And slowly rest the head back down. Slowly start to extend the right leg out without the strap. Notice if you can still have that same sense of full leg activation. So one single muscle is not over dominating. And then we'll do the same thing on the second leg. So slide the strap to the ball of the left foot. If you were like me, try not gripping quite so hard with the hands so they're not tired by the end. And just bend and extend the left leg. And think of the leg like an accordion, where there's this even sense of creasing through hip, knee, and ankle, and then even sense of elongating. The next time the leg extends, just gently push the ball of the foot into the strap, pull the strap back, and notice an even sense of activation through the leg. Notice that traveling all the way up into the hip socket, maybe even the low back, maybe even the core. That would be great if you could feel this connecting all the way into the deep center of your being. And then slide the strap to the heel, same thing. Take a couple of springs with the leg. And then as the heel extends, notice if you feel different muscles activating. A lot of times we do too much with the front of our body, and so the kicking the heel into the strap is hopefully waking up the back of the body, these really strong muscles that are often dormant or untapped. And so now start to make some big circles with the leg and notice how that translates into the hip socket. And keep the pelvis heavy so that the thigh bone is expressing itself, but the hips aren't moving a lot. Right? Imagine they're made of granite and they're just anchored into the earth. Circle the leg the opposite way. Move really slow. See if that helps you feel more. And then from center, you can take a little break with your hands if you need to. Shake them out. And then grab hold of the strap. This is our last strap holding thing for now. We'll just float our leg down like that leaf catching a breeze, just gently swaying. And notice as you kick the leg gently forward, sense of even engagement through the whole leg, nothing over dominating, especially not the front of the left hip. And let the foot eventually make it all the way down, and you can set the strap off to the side for now. And rest for one moment in Shavasana, just letting that information settle not in the mind, but in the deeper consciousness. Observe the breath. And if you're following along with our musical playlist, you can hit play on the first track. Make sure it's set to loop, and I'll tell you when it's time for the next one. And Diana, you're just in time. Glad you could join us. The first track is called A Light Snow. And so, as you're ready to begin moving, glide the heels towards the sits bones, reach fingertips towards the heels, and press into the feet to just lift the hips an inch. And then set the hips down and let the feet lift and drop them down. And pulse between these two movements with hips down and then feet down. And let the feet keep adjusting each time they set down, because they'll find the most comfortable position if you let them. Hey Jamie, glad to see you. Oh, you're in a new space. And the next time the feet are down, gently push into the feet without lifting the hips. And just notice, kind of like how kicking into that strap, notice how this gently engages the legs all the way up to the core. And then slowly lift the tailbone towards the knees so the bottom of the pelvis lifts, and then set the hips back down and drop the tailbone so the low back arches. So just some gentle pelvic tilts. And try to avoid the any urge to squeeze the glutes. Instead, let this movement really come from the feet and a sense of evenness in the pelvis. No single muscle dominating. The next time the pelvis tucks, ever so gently press into the feet, press into the shoulders, press into the hands, and lift one vertebra at a time, and actually try to feel that. Actually let the one vertebrae at a time thing be real instead of just a cue. And then set one vertebra at a time down. And I find that I have to really move a lot slower to articulate one vertebra at a time, and really helps control and activate some subtler core muscles to get that fine motor skill down. Once the sacrum makes it to the earth, lift the legs and give them a shake like they're jello. Let this be really slow and almost like oozy and jiggly, letting any tension melt out of the legs and the hips. And then reach the left arm up. Slowly press left hand and right foot away from one another, stretching long through that X of the body. And then same thing with left leg and right arm. Stretch right arm, left foot apart. And imagine that strap is still around the foot, so there's no tension in the hip flexors. We're going to repeat that sequence again. And if you felt any tension in the hip flexors when you did that, feel free to grab your strap and use the strap to do that. So starts with the bridge, drag the feet in, slowly rock the pelvis, and then lift one vertebra at a time. Set everything back down with control. Legs up, give them a slow jiggle. The range of motion can be small or bigger, whatever feels good. And then stretch left hand, right foot apart. Feel how the limbs anchor into the core. And then the other half of the X releases. Hands are overhead, feet are outstretched. Lift the right leg, cross it over the body, and reach the right leg to the front left corner of the mat, so the furthest corner away from you, and slowly let the right leg connecting into the core pull you onto your belly. And then we're going to reverse that. So lift the right leg, slide it over the left, and go back the way you came, but really try to feel how the right leg is pulling the rest of the body. You can almost imagine the rest of the body as dead weight, just following that right leg. And we're going to do this a couple times. This is an amazing way to wake up the core and to integrate our legs directly into the core. That's going to help us release any tension from our hips through the course of the class. So move at your own pace. See if you can notice your breath here, and notice the nice massage over the left side of the body as you roll. The next time you roll onto the belly, pause there. Reach hands and feet apart. Again, imagine those feet are kicking into the straps. So there's that full bodied participation. And then keeping the pelvis heavy, slowly lift the right leg, reaching it away from you. Urdhva Shalabhasana. Feel the back of the leg gently engage, and then evenly set the leg down and switch. And take a few of these and bring your awareness to your low back as you do this. There shouldn't be any compression. And so if you feel any tightness there, try to anchor the pelvis down and really kick the foot back, and don't worry about lifting so high. Next time you set the left leg down, pause there. And instead of lifting the legs, slowly start to lift the upper body, but imagine the legs participating just as much as they were when you were focusing on them. Slide the hands underneath the shoulders and drag them back to elongate the spine. And then let the hands slide back a little bit more. Push down into the hands and knees to lift into a nice long table. Keep pushing into the hands to allow the hips to melt towards the heels. They might not make it because the hands are a little further forward than a normal table, and that's fine. Feel the little opposition between hands and heavy sit bones. And then push down into the shins, letting the spine round forward. And then walk hands underneath shoulders so you're in a normal table. And let's play with a couple of hip springs here. So press the hips back towards the heels and let them naturally spring forward. And just start to feel the sense of rhythm and momentum. You can't force anything here or it feels awkward. The next time you come forward, extend the right leg straight back. I'm stealing this from you, Anjali. She taught this today in her graduation yoga class, and it felt so good. We're just going to make some little circles with our right leg and keep the pelvis stable. And so that you really have a sense of the right thigh moving in the hip socket. You might even feel a lot of warmth starting to build on the left hip stabilizers. That means you're doing it right. And go the opposite direction with the right leg. And then set the right toes down. Push into hands and right foot to slowly curl the left knee and bring head towards knee. Just a little crunch. And then set the left knee down. Keep everything integrated, like that gentle crunch is still happening. Right knee slides in to meet the left, and we switch. So left leg back. Stabilize the hips by pressing down into the right knee, and slowly start to circle the right foot. And keep the right leg straight for now. And that lever of the leg will actually demand more of the hip, keeping it straight. If it's hard to keep the hips steady, just make smaller circles, and you can set the left leg down at any time if you need a break. Go the opposite direction and become aware of the core and the spine here. If you feel any sagging in the low back, try to resist gravity a little bit with the spine. Just gently finding a buoyancy, lifting away from the earth slightly. And then with left toes tucked under, set them down, push down into hand and foot, and gently curl the right knee up, head to knee. Set right knee down, bring left knee to meet it. Step the hands forward, one handprint, and let's go back to those hip bounces. So find your own personal rhythm. The hands press the hips back, and then the shins just allow the hips to ricochet back to neutral. And the next time the hips come back, lift the knees and try the same thing, but it'll feel more like shooting forward to a plank pose. And if this is ever uncomfortable, you can continue to keep the knees down. And so just start to feel the sense of energy traveling forward as you kick into the legs and shift the weight forward. And the next time the energy travels forward, let the right foot step forward with it. Just see how effortless. Yes, nice. Yeah, you guys totally rocked that. Bring the hands inside of the foot so there's some extra room for your hips. And then before we do our hula hoops, hug foot and knee together. And notice that sense of the legs connecting at the pelvic floor up into the core, and keep that gentle contraction as you hula hoop. Right? So instead of just letting everything melt to the floor, the foot and the knee are gently hugging, so there's just a little more muscular energy drawing in and up. The circles might be a lot smaller as you do that. And go the opposite direction. And we don't want any strain here, so if drawing foot and knee towards one another over engages the muscles, you can always release for a moment. Just find a balance. We are not pressing into our end range of motion. Center the hips. Slide the right leg back just a little bit so we have more stability as we come up, and slowly push down into back knee and front foot. Let the tailbone drop. Let the sits bones drop. And as you do that, notice how the spine just naturally starts to stack and roll up. But the pelvis is creating that movement. Hands reach up and gently circle back. And then kick into the front leg as you round forward, reach forward. Push down into the back knee, slowly bend the front knee. Same thing, tailbone heavy, and let that stack one vertebra at a time. And we're just going to play between those two shapes, but really move slow and notice a sense of control and stability. The front leg can continue to gently drag back, just so everything's connecting up through the deep front line of the body, the deep universal core. Nice control, everybody. Yeah, you got it. And the next time you roll up, pause at the top. Bring the fingertips behind the ears. And I'm going to turn just so that you can see me, but you can stay where you are. Ooh, Dana, you and your friend got the best seat for this one because you're facing away. Your silhouette, so I thought you were facing me. Okay, you got it. Slowly start to crunch towards the left, and notice how the rib cage and the hips start to draw towards one another, and then come back up. And do that a couple of times, just starting to create that pathway where the rib cage And the hips are connected by soft tissue, internal and external obliques and transverse abdominis. And the next time you slowly come back up, try to keep that connection. So there's a lot of strength on the left side of the body. Float the arms to airplane. Keep them at a T as you slowly let the whole left side of the body lengthen without losing the connection between the ribs and the pelvis. Take a few of these side bends. You'll know you're doing it right if you start to feel a connection down into the left hip and the left leg. If it's all in the ribs, there's some kind of disconnect in the core, and no judgment. Just start to notice that and visualize a muscular connection down into the hips. This is a great way to start to say hello to our psoas, a very deep hip flexor that is essential for almost all movement. The next time you take your side bend, pause for just a moment and make sure you can breathe naturally and fully. And then reach both arms up, look up, and gently melt the hands inside of the foot from where you came from. Let the hips soften for just a moment. And then lift the back knee, drag the right foot along the mat up and back to three-legged dog. And then set the right foot down. Bend the knees just a little bit, push into the hands a little extra so you can lift the hips up and back into Adho Mukha Svanasana. And then slowly lower the knees down. Step the right foot just in front of the left, just about an inch in front of the left knee. And just take a couple of rocks with the hips, just like we did from tabletop. Start to feel that rhythm. Keep the weight in the right heel so there's no pressure in the front of that right knee. And as you feel some strength and momentum building, the next time you shift forward, lift the back knee and then set it down. And just take a couple of moments to start to waken up a little support in the legs. We haven't stood up yet in class. Wow, this feels really good. Yeah, try to slow down a little bit, Diana, as long as that feels okay in your legs. And the next time you slowly stand up, pause there, push into the feet, let the tailbone drop, let the body lengthen forward. And then glide the left foot forward to meet the right. Step the feet a little bit wider than the hips and just pause. Heavy sit bones, heavy tailbone. Natural breath. Let the toes turn out just a little bit and start to sway your hips from side to side. Bring a little extra weight into your heels. And we're lowering through Malasana, but we don't want any pain in the knees here, so it's okay to stay up high. I sort of feel like a gorilla right now, and I'm liking it. So if that helps you, yeah, you can have like big gorilla arms and let them sway from side to side. That can be really nice for the thoracolumbar fascia of the low back. And then start to bring the hips all the way back up so you're eventually back at standing. Slowly push on to the tiptoes and reach the hands down and wide. And notice any tendency for the ankles to fall out to the side, and try to counterbalance that by activating the ankles and bringing them to center. And then set the heels down. We're going to do that one more time, but this time we are going to bring the hips all the way down. And so if that's not comfortable, you can use your hands to support you and just eventually bring the hips down. But if it is comfortable, take your time and enjoy the little massage in the hip sockets. And once you make it to the bottom, just take one moment to press into the big toe and then gently squeeze the glutes, and just notice any sense of buoyancy through the ankles, knees, and hips when you do that. Press in a big toe, gently squeeze the glutes ever so gently. Push down in the feet, lift up just 1 inch, and then let the hips get really heavy, lowering all the way down. the legs extend in front of you. Bounce out the knees, massaging the hamstrings, pounding them gently into the mat. And then scooch on over off of your mat just like we began. And slowly recline. And so we're going to do most of that again on the second side, but we're not going to do the strap stuff because you already got it. We'll just visualize the strap. So just take a moment to feel the body, feel the breath, like how we began. No. Slowly start to drag the heels in towards the glutes and feel the back line of the body engaging, the muscles traveling up the backs of the legs. Reach the fingertips towards the heels and take a couple of pelvic rocks. And then lift one vertebra at a time. And set one vertebra at a time back down. Legs up, slow motion. Shake. And opposite arm and leg lengthen away from one another to lower, and then the other one. And then we do it again. So first, drag feet, lift into bridge. And this time, as you set down, imagine the hips, imagine the sacrum, like that leaf catching the wind, just gently releasing and lowering from side to side effortlessly. The air, just enough to support you. As the hips come down, legs go up, give them a shake. Let any tension just melt off the leg, like just big boulders crumbling off of you. And then instead of one leg at a time, let's try both legs, but if that's ever uncomfortable, you can go back to the X's. Slowly squeeze the legs together for a little support, and then allow the heels to glide from side to side, just like you did with your sacrum. The knees can bend a little bit because we don't want any strain in the hip flexors here. And just slowly lower the legs back down. It's okay for one hip to slightly lift if that helps prevent any tension from building. And then allow the legs to lengthen all the way out and pause for a moment. Reach arms overhead. Left leg lifts and crosses over to slowly pull you all the way onto the belly. And then go back the way you came. So left leg lifts and crosses back over. And try to feel the X of the left leg pulling away from the left arm and that little bit of tension that's created. It's similar to the tension we were trying to create between the rib cage and the pelvis in our side bends. Just notice that connection, awakening the limb to core pathways. The next time you're on your belly, pause there, but no need to rush. And we'll do our Urdhva Shalabhasana. So extend the left leg straight back and slightly up. Set the left leg down and switch sides. The whole body stays pretty heavy and anchored, and the toes point downward. This is a nice way of making sure gluteus maximus doesn't over-dominate. There should be a sense of evenness through the back of the hips. And then instead of lifting the legs, use all that strength to start to peel the heart off the mat, letting the whole front of the body lengthen. Slide the hands back a little wider than the shoulders and drag the hands back to find a little extra length. And then let the hands keep dragging back. Push down into hands and knees to slowly lift into our long table and push the hips towards the heels, but it's okay if they don't reach. And then push into the shins, shifting the weight forward. Walk the hands back a little bit so you're in a truer table with shoulders over wrists. And then just take a couple of those hip springs. And the next time you're in table, extend the left leg straight back, tuck left toes under, press into hands and curl the right knee into the chest, just like we did earlier. And then drop the right knee, but keep all that core integration as the left leg hovers. You can keep with the circles, or we can add on a little bit by slowly bending the left knee like a little stinger leg, and try to keep the pelvis where it is so that the low back doesn't arch here. Open the left knee off to the side and draw a big circle until the left leg comes to meet the right, and then reverse it. So instead of opening back, it opens to the left and then circles back up to that stinger leg. So we'll do this a couple of times. Knee comes into the chest, look at the knee, back through the stinger leg counterclockwise, big circle, and then reverse that so we get all directions in our hips. And again, the more you stabilize the hips here, the more warmth will build on that standing leg, even though you're not doing anything with it. The next time the left knee pulls in towards you, let it drop, pause for a moment. Let's go back to those bounces before we do the second side. Oh, Jamie, you brought a friend too. Hi, welcome. And bounce right back up to table. Now same thing on the second leg. So extend the left leg out. Crunch the left knee into the chest this time. Feel that core strength, and then slowly set the left knee down, but stay strong. Let the right leg hover. Option to just do circles with the right leg, or stinger leg. Keep the pelvis anchored. Slowly open right knee off to the side and then circle it forward and in. And then reverse it so it curls in like a crunch, and then off to the side and all the way back to the stinger leg. And then we reverse. And do this a couple of times, moving really slow, and you might notice one direction is more challenging, or maybe one very specific part of the movement. That is great information to have. And that means this might be a really awesome exercise for you finding more balance in the hips. The next time the knee curls in, set the knee down, tuck the toes. We'll take a couple of table bounces, and then we'll add in our down dog to plank bounces. So option to stay low or hover the knees and use that same rhythm to press the hips back and then spring the body forward. And try to find as much ease here as possible. So even though you could really kick into the legs, find like the minimal effort you need to exert to do this. The next time you spring forward, take the left leg with you and just notice how effortlessly you can step that left foot forward. Awesome. Make any adjustments with the left foot. Keep the hands inside the foot. Drop the right knee and gently drag right knee and left foot together so you feel the inner thighs engage, and allow that engagement to travel up the core all the way up the spine. Drop the head slightly, and then nice slow circles with the hips, keeping that engagement in the inner thighs, and then go the opposite direction. And then from center, slide the left foot back just a few inches so you've got a shorter lunge. Push down into left foot and right knee to very slowly stack one vertebra at a time. Feel the sits bones get really heavy. Feel the activation in the back of that right thigh as the hamstrings engage to help lift the torso. Arms reach up, heart lifts just a little bit. Let the arms circle back. And then slowly extend the front leg, melting forward, but no need to touch the earth unless you want to. And same thing, push down into the legs, heavy sits bones, stack one vertebra at a time to open. And just take a couple more at your own pace. Try to tune into your breath here. Notice how your breath can support you from the inside. And the next time you rise up, fingertips behind ears. Let's take our sideways crunches to the right so you can really feel the connection of the right side of the body, shortening the ribs, anchoring into the side core and connecting down into pelvis and legs. The next time you crunch, pause there, make sure you can breathe, and then bring your arms to airplane wings and keep all of that tightness and connection as you slowly lift and lengthen that right side of the body. And so I'm going to turn again just so you can see. And just repeat with those tilts. And the indicator that everything's integrated is that as you side bend to the left, you feel the stretch all the way down into the right hip, into the right leg. If you're not feeling it, add that crunch back in. Keep that strength as you lengthen the right side of the body. And the next time you take your side bend to the left, pause there. Let the breath be natural but full. And then lift both arms up, gaze up, release the hands inside the left foot, tuck right toes, lift right knee, kick into the left foot like a modified Parsvottanasana, and then drag the left foot back and up, three-legged down dog. Let the left leg drop to down dog. Bend the knees a little bit, bounce the hips up and down a couple times just like we practiced before. And then set the knees all the way down, step the left foot in front of the right, really short lunge, so our 90-90 lunge, right angles with both legs, hands in front of you, and just start to take a couple of those hip rocks, but now we just have one leg down. Very similar rhythm though, similar with the right leg. Now the left leg's forward. I find it's a little easier to stand up if I slide my left leg back a little bit, so feel free to try that and just keep the weight in that left heel so there's not too much pressure in the front of the shin and left knee. And then next time you shift forward, hover the right knee and then set it down. So we're just building on this momentum a little bit, demanding a little extra muscular effort. Yeah, you guys are doing great. And the next time you start to come up, try lifting all the way onto that left leg so the right leg hovers, and then release the right foot down. And just pause for a moment. In standing, you can make any adjustments with the feet. Let the tailbone be heavy, let the sits bones be heavy so the pelvis is nice and neutral and the low back can lengthen. Tune into the breath. Okay, we're going to use the strap again. So grab your strap and what? And we've got an option to stand on the block, but if you feel a little trepidatious in your balancing, I recommend standing on the floor because it's more solid. So it's up to you if you use the block or not. The block is going to demand a little bit more integration as you balance. And I've got small feet that fit perfectly on a block, but if your toes hang over, it might feel less balanced than it is for me. So wear the strap like a scarf and place either the left foot on the block or on the floor. And we're going to start with some gentle leg swings. And this can get kind of like, woo, like, yeah. And we don't want that. we actually want to let the hip be really relaxed and let the Oh, this is sort of fun. Hold the strap in the right hand. Notice how the strap swings, and let the right leg swing like that. You know, it's just sort of like limp and not participating. And notice if that helps you relax the right hip a little bit. We really want to relax the front and the back of the hip. And then pause and grab your strap. Option to step off of the block. My left leg's already feeling a little tired from that, so if you're feeling that, feel free to add some more stability. And just like we did the second time, slide the strap down to the heel. And just like we did on the floor, gently kick the foot and strap together. Take a couple springs with the legs, very similar sequence to what we did on the floor. And just feel those muscles engaging. And then the next time the heel kicks forward and out, just pause there. Tune into the breath, feel the strength in the leg, and notice any sense of that strength traveling up into the core. Maybe you find your posture is a little better. And then without any tension in the hip flexor, play with starting to lift the right leg. And it might just be a little, right? You might notice, oh, if I go too high, there's tension. If you feel tension, kick the foot into the strap, lower it down, and try again. So we're trying to retrain the hips a little bit so we don't create too much tension in our hip flexors. When you find the place that it is most comfortable to pause with no tension, you can pause there. And then bring the strap into the right hand and play with a similar thing to the right side. So kick the foot into the strap a couple of times. And then pause, let it lower, let it lift. And then let the leg lower or hold it for a moment if it feels good. Bend the knee, bring the strap behind you. I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see this a little more easily. And without kicking into the strap, try to keep the right hip pretty soft. Bend the elbows, let the elbows come overhead, bend the left knee a little bit, and just ever so gently let the front of the hip open. And don't worry about depth here. Make sure you can breathe. Find a drishti, a steady gaze point. And then just slowly release the leg. Wear your strap as a scarf again. And kick out the left leg. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. But before we do that, just pause for a moment. Step the feet underneath you. Shift the weight from side to side. Bring your awareness to the right hip and notice any sense of support there. Notice any difference between sides. And then we will step either onto the earth or onto the block with our right leg. If having the visual of the strap helped, you can hold the strap in your left hand as you dangle the leg forward. And bring a little extra awareness to the right leg. So press into the ball of the base of the big toe on the right side. Gently squeeze the right glute just so there's a lot of stability supporting you. Notice if that changes, how the left leg can dangle freely. And then we add in the strap. So bring the strap to the heel. And just start with kicking into the strap a few times. And I'm sorry I didn't offer this earlier on the first side. You can find a drishti, a steady gaze point, and let the breath support you from inside. The next time the leg extends, pause. Gently kick the heel into the strap and try to feel the back line of the body engaging. And if you don't feel it, lower the leg all the way down. It's a little easier if the leg is straight. And then with the back engaging to support you, let the leg start to lengthen forward with no tension in the front of the hip. And you can always reset and try again. This is sort of your time to explore. And then bend the knee and slowly open the hip off to the side. You can stay right here. This is a great place to explore. And bring the heel towards the sit bone a little bit as you kick into the strap, and just feel that springiness on the back of the left leg. Option to extend the leg any amount, but you don't have to. And then finally bend the knee, bring the foot behind you, grab the strap. Oh, I'm not used to being so tall. You couldn't see my head, I'm sorry. Grab the strap with both hands so the elbows are overhead, and just gently guide the knee behind you. This isn't a deep pose, or we're not trying to make it a deep pose. We're just trying to let the front of the body open with all of our core support. Make sure you can breathe. And then as you're ready, let the strap slide through the hands. Set the left foot down. Shake out the right leg. You can toss the strap over to the side and just pause for a moment with both feet on the ground. And then turn to the left. Let the feet walk a little wide and just shift from side to side, letting the hips glide. Let the sits bones start to get heavy, just like we did before. We'll slowly lower through Malasana. And then pause in the bottom of your Malasana. As long as if it's not comfortable, you can sit on your block as long as it's right there. But if it is comfortable, take a moment, anchor through the base of the big toe, gently squeeze the glutes and push down into the feet, and just notice any sense of spaciousness. And then push into the feet, let the hips lift, turn the toes forward, head melts, deep bend in the knees so there's no tension in the low back here. Let the belly and the thighs connect. So however deeply you need to bend the knees to do that. Shift the weight back into the heels. Let the sits bones get heavy. And slowly, as the sit bones pull down, let one vertebra at a time stack. Come on to your tiptoes. The hands can reach down. Let the front of the body open any amount. And then we'll repeat that. Swing the hands forward, toes turn out a little bit. Slowly lower by shifting side to side into Malasana. And then lift the hips, toes forward. Deep bend in the knees so the whole spine can melt out of the pelvis. Heavy sits bones. Let that activate the hamstrings as you slowly stack one vertebra at a time. Shift the weight into the toes. And then slowly lower the heels down and just pause for a moment and feel a sense of balance and support emanating from feet up to pelvis to core. Okay, so we are going to play with a little balance without our strap, but we should be really warmed up for it. And if you were in class last week, it's really similar to our peak sequence last week. So walk to the short end of the mat to your left. Shift the weight into the left foot, arms down, reach out through the fingertips so the whole body's lightly engaged. Lift the right knee. And slowly draw a big circle, just like we did in tabletop position, circling the right leg behind you, and kick the right leg back. Let the toes come down to the earth and bend both knees. Remember those, I didn't even have to say it. Yeah, it's that perfect rhythm that we've been finding through class. Let yourself be really nice and buoyant. And then arms to airplane, just like we did with our knee down, but now we're going to do it from a high lunge. Take your crunch to the right so the right side integrates, and then slowly let the whole right side lengthen so you bank off to the left. The right knee can bend a little bit here, and as it feels comfortable, the left arm might start to reach towards the right foot, but that's not the goal. And then push into both feet, coming back to neutral. Shift the weight into the left foot and spring up. Bend the right knee, grab the right ankle, left hand reaches forward. And just take a couple of springs in the left knee. If you want a little bit more here, you can kick the foot back into dancer. You can play with a shrimp squat or just hold where you are. And we'll just let that right leg eventually become free. So take your time. And then free the right leg. Let it flow behind you. Nice. Soften the left knee. Melt forward, hands to earth. And then glide the left foot back and up. You can stay in three-legged dog, or you can bend the left knee and let the left foot hang heavy to the right. Just keep both shoulders squaring towards the mat. And then slowly release the left foot down. Bend the knees, press into the hands to lift the hips. And then slowly lower the knees down and just take a couple of bounces here before we do the second side. And then hover the knees and take a couple of plank bounces, and then step the right foot forward. And then try taking some bounces in this lunge. So the back knee stays bent and the front leg extends and bends. So you feel the hips shifting, and eventually see if you can ride that momentum to step the back foot forward. Sits bones heavy, tension through the back line of the legs. Let one vertebra at a time stack. Take your time. And then we'll just do that same sequence on the second side. So shift the weight to the right. Find a drishti. Observe the breath. Arms to a low V. Reach out through the arms, stabilizing shoulders to core. Lift the left knee. Draw a big circle with the left knee around and back. Bend both knees. Bring the left toes down. And we take our nice supported psoas stretch. So take a few springs here in that nice rhythm you've been finding, just like a buoy floating on the ocean. The next time the knees soften, take a little crunch to the left just to integrate that left side, and then let the whole left side slowly lengthen as you bank to the right. The left knee can bend a little bit. You can take some buoy bounces in the side bend. You can come all the way up and crunch again. We'll just take one more moment. And then shift the weight into the front foot. Spring the back leg up and grab it. Play in dancer. Play with a shrimp squat. Take your time. Nice. As you're ready, let the left leg fly back. Toes come down to the earth, and then soften the front knee, melting over the front leg. Parsvottanasana, head hangs heavy. And then glide the right leg back and up. Option to let the hips open. And bend the right knee. And then slowly lower the right leg. Slowly lower the knees. Bring big toes to touch knees nice and wide, and push back into Bhaktasana, melting the forehead to the earth. And then push down into the shins, slowly rising up. 1, vertebra at a time. And I apologize that we've been listening to the same song the whole time. You can skip 1, 2, 3 tracks ahead to the Tibetan singing bowls. It ended up being a pretty mellow class, but feel free to listen to tracks 2 and 3 if you want to have a dance party after class. So after all of that work with the legs and the hips, we're going to do a restorative psoas release. And so you're welcome to observe me before you do it. Block at the lowest height, because with our restorative poses, we really don't want to max out our end range. And you'll come to the block like a bridge pose, and you'll play with extending one leg at a time. And it might not seem like much, but with the sacrum flat on the block, this really does help open the psoas. If it's comfortable, you can do both legs, but I would recommend trying one for a few breaths, trying the other for a few breaths, and then seeing if both feel good, but not assuming that both will feel good, and I'll talk you through that. So take your time getting situated. Oh, and I guess I don't have to be mean and make you be off of the mat anymore. So feel free to scoot onto the mat. And feel the connection between the sacrum, the bony plate at the base of the spine and the center of the pelvis. It should feel really supported when that connects to the block. Check in with the low back. You do not want a deep arch in the low back. Sometimes if someone has a tight psoas, as they extend the leg, the low back might arch a lot. And so if you feel that, come back to bridge and just move into it a little slower, a little more consciously, and see if you can find a place where there's no tension. These restorative poses are really working on your nervous system and the ability to relax very deeply. So you don't really want to feel a stretch. But I promise you, there's subtle magic happening. It's okay for the toes of the extended leg to turn out if that feels good. And as you relax here, just start to notice the breath. And imagine each breath, not that you have to take a bigger breath or even do anything, but just imagine that each breath is nourishing the tissues of the hips. And if you're on one leg, now it's a good time to switch to the other leg. And just check in with the low back here. You don't want to feel any compression or tightness in the low back. Sometimes even just rocking, like we did those pelvic tilts at the beginning of class, rocking towards the back of the sacrum can help. If you want to try both legs, you're welcome to try for just the last moment of this experience. And then keep your sacrum on the block, but gently bend one knee at a time into the chest, as long as the block pressing into the back is not uncomfortable. And then anchor the hands alongside the body as if you were going to press up into a bridge pose, but don't worry, you're not going to. Extend the legs straight up. And then you can play a little bit here letting one leg slowly lengthen forward, but imagine you've got that strap there, right? So the leg is not just falling, but it's kicking into the strap. You can switch sides. You can also start to draw a big circle with the legs, so you go from like the splits to a straddle to the splits on the other side. But the goal here is not to just let gravity pull the legs into a deep pose. You almost want to resist gravity a little bit. So you're not as far as possible, but you're building some stability and integration. The knees can bend any amount. So just take some time to explore. Anything is fair game as long as you're not in the end range of your flexibility. And we'll just take one last moment. And then slowly lower the sole of one foot at a time into bridge pose. And this is my favorite part. We'll gently lift the pelvis away from the block and slide it out of the way. And as you set one vertebra at a time, sometimes it feels like you're almost like sinking down into the earth after having your hips up all that time. Just take a moment to witness the spine and the pelvis. Extend one leg at a time. And notice the sensations here. And then bend the knees, grab behind the knees and just gently roll forward and back a few times. I know quite a few of you are new to my class, so we take a little bit of time for upright meditation, and then we'll lay back down for Shavasana at the end. And so the next time you rock up, pause upright, and just one last pose here. Extend the legs in front of you, bend the knees, and as you slowly melt the spine over the legs, let the knees open and fall out to the side. And then kick into the heels, slowly stacking one vertebra at a time as the knees naturally pull up towards the sky. If you've done this with me before, feel free to just do it at your own slow, conscious pace. Otherwise, I'll talk you through it again because there's a few moving parts of our octopus. So the knees bend, the spine melts, and the hips open off to the side. Then you kick into the heels, and it naturally resets the pose back to the top. Nice. And it's okay if it doesn't look just like mine. Just make sure there's no tension building in the hips or the low back as you do this. And feel free to pause if there's a certain place that feels really good and you want to explore it. Otherwise, the next time you come to upright, you can pause your music. You can grab a blanket or a cushion or a chair, however you like to sit. Feel free to have a sip of water. And of course, after all of that, we do not want to build any tension in the hips here. So take a moment to make sure you feel really supported and comfortable. And that doesn't have to look like a certain way. And perhaps you may notice more support in the hips, more freedom in the low back, or something different. And take a moment to just close the eyes And notice the wholeness of your body as if you were observing your physical form from the outside. And then start to observe the breath in that same way, where you're not altering it, you're just observing from this outside perspective. And this class was a little different than usual. We really moved in a very therapeutic, integrated way. And so notice if it's a little easier to release the grip of the mind, release any grip on the breath, and allow yourself to be in this spacious, nourishing moment. And to help bring more nourishment, we'll use the sound of the breath. We connect the syllable hum to the inhale and sa to the exhale. This not only helps us focus and integrate more wholly with the breath, but it also directs us to this deeper place inside of pure consciousness. And so with each inhale, ever so gently repeat the syllable hum silently to yourself. Each exhale, repeat sa. And imagine that this focus on the breath and this powerful mantra is helping you connect deeper and deeper inside, breath after breath. Finding infinitely more space with each breath. You're welcome to continue practicing in this way with breath and mantra upright. And you're also welcome to recline into Shavasana at any time. And after the work we did, this could be a nice time to have a little support underneath the backs of the knees. So if you've got a pillow or a rolled up blanket, that can be nice. Just start to notice the breath naturally energizing the body. And imagine that quality of the leg kicking into the strap and that even all over gentle activation. And just visualize that quality filling the whole body. It's a sense of integration and awareness and support and strength. Make any gentle movements. Feel free to stretch arms overhead and reach feet into invisible straps. And consciously make your way up any way that you like. We'll meet with hands at heart. Thank you all for sharing this practice. Happy spring, happy Easter, happy graduation, Anjali, our newest Shambhavananda yoga teacher. So nice to meet moms and friends today. Have an awesome rest of your day and a wonderful week. Aloha. Bye, everybody. I hope your hips feel amazing. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Otherwise, hope to see you all soon. Hey, Diana. So great to see you. Cool. No, no worries. I'll just reach out to the teacher. Thanks for the heads up. Absolutely. Understood. It's really good to see you. You too. Hey, Dana. Uh-oh, you're like... Yeah, thanks so much for coming. It's so good to see you. I feel like it's been a little while. I know you're busy teaching and stuff. Uh-oh, I can't hear you, but I can see... now I can.
Okay, yeah, I just got the thing, my connection's unstable. That was just such a great class. I feel so good. This is my boyfriend, Andy.
Hi, Andy. So nice to meet you. Very cool. Well, hopefully I get to meet you guys in person someday. Yeah. So, yeah, so good to see you, Dana. Aloha.